Part 1. The Warning, the Massive Council. Chamber hummed with tension as hundreds of alien species gathered for the emergency session. Blue lights cast strange shadows across the curved walls of the Galactic Council headquarters. Representatives from across the galaxy sat in their designated sections, their various forms creating a bizarre display of evolutionary diversity. Ambassador Vex of the Alterian Empire stood at the center podium, his forearms trembling slightly as he faced the assembled crowd. His silver skin had lost its usual shine. His large black eyes darted nervously between the different species before him. The Alterians were known throughout the galaxy for their calm nature and logical thinking. Seeing one of them in such distress was unusual. Fellow members of the council, Vex began, his voice carrying across the chamber through the translation devices. I stand before you today with an urgent warning. We have discovered a species that poses a great threat to our peaceful galaxy. A low murmur spread through the chamber. Many representatives leaned forward in their seats, curious about what could frighten the usually composed Alterians. The species calls themselves humans, Vex continued. They inhabit a small blue planet in the outer rim of what they call the Milky Way galaxy. At first glance, they appear harmless. They are relatively new to space travel, and their technology seems basic compared to ours. Commander Drax of the Krill Federation stood up from his seat. His massive form towered above those around him, his thick armor gleaming under the chamber lights. The Krill were known as one of the most powerful military forces in the galaxy, and Drax was their most respected leader. Ambassador Vex, Drax said, his deep voice booming across the chamber. If these humans are so primitive, why should we concern ourselves with them? Surely the mighty Alterian Empire can handle a few backward creatures. Several species laughed at Drax's comment, but Vex's expression remained serious. He shook his head slowly, his forearms gesturing for attention. You do not understand, Vex replied. We made contact with them 3 cycles ago. It was supposed to be a simple first contact mission. We sent our best diplomats and a small escort fleet. We thought it would be easy to establish trade relations, or perhaps bring them into our sphere of influence. The chamber grew quiet as Vex paused, clearly struggling with difficult memories. What happened next defied all our expectations. He continued. The humans did not react like other species. When we arrived at their system, they did not immediately surrender or show fear. Instead, they studied us. They watched our ships, learned our patrol patterns, and somehow figured out our communication frequencies. General Zack of the Doom Empire, a reptilian creature with scarred scales, interrupted with a harsh laugh. So they were curious. Many primitive species react with curiosity when they first see advanced technology. No, Vex said firmly. This was different. They were not just curious, they were planning. Within days of our arrival, human ships began appearing near our vessels. Not to attack, but to observe. They used civilian vessels, cargo ships, even small personal craft. Each time we tried to communicate, they would listen and then disappear. The chamber buzzed with conversation as representatives discussed this strange behavior among themselves. Vex raised his voice to continue. Then something happened that changed everything. And one of our patrol ships had a minor engine failure and drifted near their planet. We expected them to either flee in fear or perhaps offer assistance. Instead, dozens of human ships surrounded our vessel. They did not fire weapons or make threats. They simply waited. And then, asked Counselor Nara of the Peaceful Worlds Alliance, her tentacles swaying with interest. They boarded our ship, Vex said quietly, and not with force, but with permission. Our crew, not wanting to cause an incident, allowed them aboard. The humans who came were not soldiers or diplomats. They were what they called engineers and scientists. They spent hours examining our technology, asking questions, taking measurements. The chamber erupted in surprised chatter. Most species required years or even decades to understand basic alien technology. The idea that primitives could grasp advanced concepts so quickly seemed impossible. They learned faster than any species we have ever encountered, Vex continued. Within hours, they understood our basic propulsion systems. Within days, They had figured out our communication technology. By the end of the first week, they were building crude copies of our equipment. Commander Drax stood again, his expression skeptical. Even if this is true, copying technology is not the same as understanding it. Many species can copy without truly comprehending. Vex's eyes focused directly on Drax. That is what we thought too, until they began improving our designs. A shocked silence fell over the chamber. The idea that a primitive species could improve upon advanced galactic technology was almost unthinkable. Impossible, muttered General Zack. I have the technical reports, Vex said, producing a data crystal from his robes. They took our basic energy weapons and made them 30% more efficient. They examined our ship armor and created a lighter, stronger version using materials from their own planet. Most disturbing of all, they understood the psychological impact of their actions. What do you mean? Asked Counselor Nara. They began sending us gifts, Vex explained. Not valuable items or tribute, as most species do when trying to appease. A superior force. They sent us examples of their own technology, their art, their music. But there was something else mixed in. Records of their history. Vex activated a holographic display showing images of human warfare throughout their history. Battles, weapons, and destruction filled the air above the assembled representatives. We discovered that these humans have been fighting wars for their entire recorded history. Not simple territorial disputes or resource conflicts, but total wars where entire populations were mobilized. They have developed weapons capable of destroying their own planet multiple times over. They have created ways of fighting that defy all military logic. The images showed human soldiers in various conflicts, their faces determined and fierce. Many representatives shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Most disturbing of all, Vex continued, is their pack mentality. Other species fight for resources, territory, or survival. Humans fight for ideas, for concepts, for abstract principles. They will sacrifice everything, including their own lives, for causes they believe in. They do not surrender when faced with superior force. Instead, they adapt, they learn, and they find ways to turn their weaknesses into strengths. Commander Drax laughed dismissively. You speak as if these primitives frightened the great Alterian Empire? Surely your military could handle a few aggressive creatures? Vex's forearms drooped slightly. We tried to establish a military presence in their system, thinking that a show of force would encourage cooperation. Humans responded by making every single one of their civilian vessels into potential weapons. Cargo ships became rams. Passenger liners became mobile bases. Even their smallest personal craft were modified to carry explosive devices, so they resorted to suicide attacks, General Zack said with a sneer. Many desperate species do the same when faced with extinction. No, Vex replied. They were not desperate. They were planning. Every attack served multiple purposes. Each assault gathered intelligence about our capabilities while simultaneously testing their own theories about our weaknesses. They treated warfare like a science experiment, with each battle providing data for the next encounter. The chamber grew tense as representatives began to understand the implications of Vex's words. We withdrew from their system after losing 6 ships and having 2 others severely damaged, Vex admitted. Not because they overpowered us with superior technology, but because they learned to fight us better than we knew how to fight them. They turned every encounter into a learning experience, while we repeated the same tactics expecting different results. Vex looked around the chamber, his black eyes reflecting the blue lights. I stand before you today with this warning. These humans must not be underestimated. They are not just another primitive species waiting to be brought into galactic civilization. They are something else entirely. Something dangerous. The chamber fell silent as the weight of Vex's words settled over the assembled representatives. The warning had been given, but whether it would be heeded remained to be seen. Part 2. First contact gone wrong 3 weeks after the Galactic Council dismissed Ambassador Vex's warnings. Admiral Rex stood on the bridge of his flagship, the mighty destroyer. The massive Krill warship led a fleet of 200 vessels toward the small blue planet the humans called Earth. Rex's thick fingers drummed against his command chair as he watched the primitive world grow larger on his main screen. Admiral reported his communications officer. "We are now within range of the human homeworld. Shall I begin broadcasting the surrender demands?" Rex nodded, his scarred face showing confidence. The Krill Federation had conquered dozens of worlds. Using the same basic strategy, show overwhelming force, demand submission, and most species would surrender without a fight. Those few who resisted were quickly crushed by superior technology and numbers. "Open all channels," Rex commanded. "Every human on that planet, hear our message." The communications officer worked at his controls for several moments before nodding. "All human communication frequencies are now receiving our transmission, Admiral." Rex stood from his chair and walked toward the main screen, his heavy boots echoing across the bridge. He had given this speech many times before, and the results were always the same: fear, panic, and then surrender. "People of Earth," Rex began, his deep voice carrying across space to the planet below. "I am Admiral Rex of the Krill Federation, speaking on behalf of the Galactic Council. Your world has been selected for integration into our galactic civilization. You will surrender immediately and prepare for occupation forces to land on your surface." He paused, allowing the weight of his words to settle. On most worlds, this was when the begging would begin. Desperate pleas for mercy, offers of tribute, or frantic attempts at negotiation. "You have 1 standard hour to respond with your complete surrender," Rex continued. "Any resistance will be met with overwhelming force. Your primitive weapons cannot harm our vessels, and your technology is thousands of years behind ours. Do not force us to demonstrate the consequences of defiance." Rex cut the transmission and returned to his command chair. Out around him, the bridge. Crew prepared for the usual surrender ceremonies. Some officers began reviewing occupation protocols, while others readied transport ships for the landing forces. "What do you think they will offer us first, Admiral?" asked his tactical officer, Lieutenant Gex. "Tribute? Slaves? Most primitive worlds try to bargain with whatever they think we might value." Rex chuckled, a sound like grinding stone. "These humans will be no different. They'll panic, their leaders will argue among themselves, and then they will beg for mercy. We'll be drinking victory ale before the day ends." Minutes passed in comfortable silence as the Krill fleet maintained its position around Earth. Rex watched the blue planet rotate slowly, noting the clusters of lights that marked human cities. Soon those cities would be under Krill control, their populations working to serve the greater galactic civilization. "Admiral," the communications officer said suddenly, "we are receiving a response from the human world." "Excellent," Rex said. Settling back in his chair, "Put it on the main screen. Let us see which human leader has come to grovel before us." The main screen flickered, but instead of showing a terrified human leader, it remained black. Static filled the audio channels, and then nothing. Complete silence. "What is this?" Rex demanded. "Is there a problem with our equipment?" The communications officer checked his instruments frantically. "No, sir. All systems are functioning properly." The humans sent a signal, but it contained no message. It's just empty static. Rex frowned. In all his years of conquest, he had never encountered such a response. Even the most primitive species managed to send some form of communication, even if it was just screaming. "Try again," he ordered. Perhaps their technology is too basic to properly format a response. Before the communications officer could comply, alarms began sounding throughout the bridge. Red lights flashed as the tactical display showed new contacts appearing on the sensors. "Admiral," shouted the tactical officer, "multiple human vessels are approaching our fleet, small craft, probably civilian ships." Rex stood and walked to the tactical display. Dozens of small blips were moving toward his massive fleet from all directions. The ships appeared to be various types of human civilian craft cargo haulers, passenger ships, even what looked like small personal vehicles. "How many?" Rex asked. "Sensors show 47 vessels so far, sir. More are launching from the planet's surface," Rex laughed. "They mean to ram us with their pathetic ships." Do they not understand that our shields can stop their entire planet's nuclear arsenal? Shall the First order the fleet to destroy them, Admiral? Asked the tactical officer. No, Rex replied. Let them come. When they see that their ships cannot even scratch our hulls, they will understand the futility of resistance. Sometimes a demonstration is more effective than mere words. The human ships continued their approach, moving in seemingly random patterns. Some flew directly toward the krill vessels, while others took curved paths that made no tactical sense. Rex watched with amusement as the primitive craft drew closer to his mighty fleet. Sir, reported the sensor operator, the human ships are not following any recognizable attack formation. In fact, their movements appear completely chaotic. As expected from primitives, Rex said dismissively, they probably have no military training or coordination. They're simply throwing their ships at us in desperation. The first human vessel, a small cargo ship, reached the outer edge of the krill formation. Instead of attempting to ram the nearest warship, it suddenly changed course and began circling one of the escort vessels. The cargo ship's movements were erratic, seemingly random. What is it doing? Rex muttered. More human ships arrived and began similar behaviors. Some circled krill vessels, while others seemed to dance between the larger alien ships. A few flew in straight lines past the fleet, apparently doing nothing more than observing. Admiral, the communications officer reported, we are receiving multiple transmissions from the human vessels. They appear to be broadcasting on various frequencies. What are they saying? Rex asked. I cannot understand most of it, sir. Some of the transmissions contain what appears to be music. Others are sending mathematical sequences. A few are broadcasting what seems to be poetry. Rex shook his head in confusion. Music? Poetry? Have these humans gone insane? Suddenly one of the human cargo ships changed its behavior dramatically. Instead of continuing its seemingly aimless circling, it accelerated directly toward a krill escort vessel. The cargo ship's engines burned at maximum power as it closed the distance, rapidly. Finally, Rex said, now we will see what happens when primitive metal meets advanced shielding. The cargo ship struck the krill escort vessel's shields at tremendous speed. As expected, the shields held easily, and the human ship was destroyed. Instantly, in a brilliant explosion, the krill vessel continued its patrol as if nothing had happened. Send a message to all human vessels, Rex ordered. Tell them that they have seen the futility of their actions. One of their ships has been destroyed while our vessel remains undamaged. Before the communications officer could send the message, alarms sounded again. This time, they were different alarms, damage control alerts. Report, Rex barked. Sir, said the tactical officer, his voice confused. The escort vessel that was rammed is reporting minor systems failures. Nothing serious, but they are having trouble with their sensors and communications. Rex frowned. How is that possible? The human ship was destroyed completely by our shields. Unknown, sir. The escort captain reports that the failures began immediately after the collision, as if responding to Rex's confusion. 3 more human ships suddenly broke from their circling patterns and accelerated toward different krill vessels. Each cargo ship struck its target at maximum speed, exploding harmlessly against the alien shields. Within minutes, all 3 targeted krill ships reported similar minor systems failures. This cannot be coincidence, Rex said slowly. What are these humans doing? His question was answered when the sensor operator made a disturbing discovery. Admiral, I have analyzed the debris from the destroyed human ships. Each vessel was carrying unusual cargo. What kind of cargo? Rex demanded. Metallic fragments, sir. Not random debris, but specifically shaped pieces of metal. It appears the humans deliberately loaded their ships with materials designed to create certain types of electromagnetic interference when vaporized at high velocity. Rex stared at the sensor readings in disbelief. You mean they planned this? They knew their ships would be destroyed, and they used that destruction as a weapon. It appears so, sir. The interference is minor but cumulative. If enough ships create similar explosions, they could disrupt our fleet's coordination systems. As if summoned by his words, dozens more human ships suddenly changed course and began accelerating toward krill vessels throughout the fleet. Some targeted the larger warships, while others aimed for support vessels and supply ships. "All vessels, evasive maneuvers," Rex shouted. "Do not let the human ships reach you." But the human ships were small and fast, and there were too many of them. The massive krill warships, built for overwhelming firepower rather than agility, could not avoid the smaller craft. One by one, human ships struck their targets, creating brilliant. Part 3. The human response. General Kane stood in the emergency command center deep beneath the mountains of Colorado. Around him, screens displayed information from across the globe as humanity's greatest crisis unfolded above their heads. 4. The first time in human history, every nation on Earth had put aside their differences to face a common enemy. General, called Colonel Parks from across the room. "We have confirmation that all major world leaders have agreed to the Unity Protocol. Every military force on the planet is now under unified command." Kane nodded grimly. The Unity Protocol was something that had existed only on paper for decades. A theoretical framework for global cooperation that most politicians thought would never be used. Now, with alien warships hanging in space above Earth, it had become humanity's lifeline. "What is our current status?" Kane asked. "Sir, we have lost 43 civilian vessels in the initial strikes against the alien fleet. However, the electromagnetic interference created by our sacrificial attacks has disrupted their coordination systems. Their fleet is partially blind and having communication problems." At a nearby workstation, Dr. Wells looked up from her analysis of the alien technology data. She had been working without sleep for 18 hours, leading teams of scientists. In examining every piece of information gathered from the alien vessels, "General Kane," Dr. Wells called out, "I have preliminary results from our analysis of the alien ships." Kane walked over to her station, where multiple screens showed technical diagrams and energy readings. "Tell me something useful, Doctor." "Their technology is indeed far more advanced than ours," Dr. Wells began, "but it follows predictable patterns.
Ow.
Their ships are built for overwhelming opponents through superior firepower and defense. They appear to have never encountered an enemy that would deliberately sacrifice ships to gather intelligence. Meaning their entire tactical doctrine is based on conventional warfare between forces trying to preserve their assets. They do not know how to fight an enemy that treats destruction as a tool rather than a failure." Kane studied the diagrams on her screen. "Can we exploit this?" "Already working on it," Dr. Wells replied. Every ship that attacked their fleet transmitted detailed sensor data before being destroyed. "We now know their shield frequencies, their communication protocols, and their basic ship designs. My teams are developing countermeasures." Across the command center, Major Ellis approached with a tablet full of reports. "General, we have an update from the Psychological Warfare Division. The alien fleet has been broadcasting on various frequencies, trying to re-establish communication with us." "What kind of broadcasts?" Kane asked. "Mostly demands for surrender, sir. But also attempts at negotiation, and even some that sound like confusion. Our linguists believe the aliens are genuinely puzzled by our response to their threats." Kane smiled coldly. "Good. Confusion is a weapon we can use. What is Captain Rogers' team doing?" Major Ellis consulted his tablet. "Sir, Captain Rogers has taken command of our audio warfare project. They are preparing to broadcast responses on the aliens' own communication frequencies." "What kind of responses?" "Well, sir, they have compiled recordings of human war cries from various cultures throughout history. They also have heavy metal music, recordings of air raid sirens, and some deliberately disturbing sound combinations designed to create psychological stress." Dr. Wells looked up from her work with interest. "That is actually quite clever. If the aliens are expecting rational communication, subjecting them to chaotic audio input could disrupt their decision-making processes." Kane nodded approval. "Implement it immediately. Want those alien ships to understand that humanity does not communicate the way they expect." As if summoned by his words, the speakers throughout the command center crackled to life with an incoming transmission from Captain Rogers' team. "General Kane, this is Captain Rogers. We are ready to begin audio warfare operations, requesting permission to broadcast on all alien frequencies. Permission granted, Captain. Show them what human communication really sounds like.
Within moments,
The alien fleet found their communication channels flooded with sounds they had never heard before. Ancient Celtic war cries mixed with modern death metal music. Air raid sirens blended with recordings of human crowds chanting in dozens of languages. The carefully organized alien communication network became chaos, sir, reported Colonel Parks. We are monitoring alien communications. Their chatter has increased dramatically, and much of it sounds like confusion and frustration. Kane turned to Dr. Wells. Doctor, how long before your teams can produce practical countermeasures? Give me 6 more hours, General.
Oh.
We are reverse engineering. They're basic technology, but more importantly, we are finding ways to improve it. Improve it. Dr. Wells smiled for the first time since the crisis began. General, these aliens have had the same technology for probably thousands of years. It works well, but it has not evolved. They've never faced an enemy that could force them to innovate. We, on the other hand, have been constantly improving our technology through warfare for our entire history. Kane understood immediately. You mean we can take their technology and make it better? It's already happening, sir. My teams have identified 17 areas where alien technology can be enhanced using human engineering principles. We are not just copying their weapons, we are creating superior versions. Across the room, Lieutenant Hayes called out from his monitoring station. General, we have new intelligence from our observation posts. The alien fleet appears to be changing its formation. Kane walked to the main tactical display, which showed the positions of alien ships around Earth. The previously organized formation was becoming scattered and defensive. They are responding to our attacks, Kane observed. But they are doing it wrong? How so, sir? Asked Major Ellis. They're treating this like a conventional battle between fleets. They are trying to protect their ships and maintain formation integrity. But we are not fighting a fleet battle. We are fighting a learning war. Dr. Wells joined them at the tactical display. General, I recommend we begin Phase 2 of our response. We now have enough data to launch targeted attacks on specific alien systems. What kind of attacks? Cyber warfare, sir? We have identified their computer networks and communication protocols. We can begin inserting viruses, false information, and system disruptions directly into their ship's computers. Kane grinned. The aliens probably have never encountered computer viruses. Their technology is advanced, but likely has no defense. Against digital warfare? Exactly, Dr. Wells confirmed. And while they try to understand our cyber attacks, we can launch physical strikes using the improved weapons my teams are developing. Lieutenant Hayes suddenly looked up from his station with excitement. General, we have a breakthrough. Our listening posts have intercepted alien communications that appear to be technical discussions. They are trying to understand how our sacrificial ships caused their system failures. And, sir, they still do not understand what we did. They think our ships malfunctioned rather than deliberately creating electromagnetic interference. They have no concept that we would intentionally destroy our own assets to achieve a tactical advantage. Kane looked around the command center at his staff. Every person in the room was working with focused intensity, their faces showing determination. Rather than fear, this was humanity at its finest, united, innovative, and absolutely refusing to surrender. Ladies and gentlemen, Kane announced, the aliens made a critical error when they chose to threaten Earth. They assumed we would react like every other species they have encountered. They thought superior technology would make us submit. Paused, looking at each person in the room. They were wrong. We do not submit. We adapt. We learn. We improve. And most importantly, we never give up. Every ship they destroy teaches us more about their weaknesses. Every communication they send gives us more intelligence. Every hour they spend trying to understand us is another hour for our scientists to build better weapons. Dr. Wells held up a data crystal containing the latest technical analysis. General, my teams are ready to begin production of the enhanced weapons. We can have the first prototypes ready within 12 hours. Do it, Kane ordered. And Doctor, I want those weapons to be more than just copies of alien technology. I want them to be better. I want the aliens to see what happens when human engineering meets alien science. Captain Rogers' voice came through the speakers again. General, the aliens have stopped trying to communicate with us through normal channels. They appear to be completely confused by our audio warfare campaign. Excellent. Keep it up, Captain. I want those aliens to understand that humanity fights with more than just weapons. We fight with psychology, with innovation, with pure stubbornness. Major. Ellis approached with new reports. Sir, we have confirmation that civilian populations worldwide are supporting the military effort. Factories are being converted to weapons production. Researchers are volunteering for the crash programs. And even children are contributing by helping with communication monitoring. Kane felt a surge of pride. This was what made humanity special, not their technology or their individual strength, but their ability to unite when facing extinction. Every human on Earth had become a warrior in their own way. The aliens thought they were conquering a divided planet of preemie part. 4. The tables turned 3 days after the initial alien attack. Engineer Tom worked frantically in the converted aircraft hangar that had become humanity's primary reverse engineering facility. Around him, teams of scientists and engineers swarmed over pieces of captured alien technology like ants on sugar. The hangar buzzed with activity as welding torches sparked. Computer screens displayed complex diagrams, and the sound of metal being cut and shaped filled the air. "Tom," called Dr. Wells from across the hangar. "The hybrid weapons are ready. For testing." Wiped sweat from his forehead and walked over to where Dr. Wells stood beside a workbench covered with strange-looking devices. The weapons appeared to be combinations of human and alien technology, with familiar, Earth-made components connected to sleek alien energy systems. "How many do we have ready?" Tom asked, examining one of the hybrid weapons. 15 energy rifles. "And 3 ship-mounted cannons," Dr. Wells replied. "But Tom, these are not just copies of alien weapons with human parts added. We have made them significantly more powerful." Tom picked up one of the energy rifles. It was heavier than a normal human weapon, but felt balanced in his hands. The alien energy core glowed softly blue, while Humandyne's cooling systems and targeting computers had been integrated seamlessly into the design. "How much more powerful?" he asked. "The rifles produce 40% more destructive energy than the original alien versions," Dr. Wells explained. "The ship-mounted cannons are 60% more powerful. Our human engineering principles allowed us to improve their energy efficiency and reduce waste heat." Across the hangar, Lieutenant Miller approached with a data tablet. "Tom, Dr. Wells, we have news from the front lines. Captain Blake has successfully captured 3 more alien vessels." Tom looked up with interest. Captain Blake had been leading the human space forces in increasingly bold attacks against the alien fleet. What had started as desperate defensive actions had evolved into offensive strikes that caught the aliens completely off guard. "How did she manage to capture them intact?" Dr. Wells asked. "She used the new cyber warfare viruses you developed," Lieutenant Miller explained. "The alien ship's computer systems have no defense against our digital attacks. Captain Blake's team infiltrated their navigation computers and simply took control of the vessels." Tom grinned. "So we are not just fighting them anymore, we are stealing their ships?" "Better than that," Lieutenant Miller continued. "Captain Blake reports that the captured alien crews are completely confused. They cannot understand how primitive humans could take control of their advanced technology. Some of them are asking to surrender personally rather than continue fighting." Dr. Wells looked thoughtful. "This confirms our analysis. The aliens have never encountered an enemy that could adapt their technology so quickly. Their entire military doctrine assumes that superior technology equals automatic victory." Tom nodded and turned back to the hybrid weapons. "What about field testing? Have we tried these new weapons in actual combat?" "It is happening right now," Dr. Wells replied. Squad Leader Davis took a team of volunteers to test the hybrid rifles against alien ground forces that landed near Tokyo. As if summoned by her words, the hangar's communication system crackled to life with an incoming transmission. "Engineering base. This is Squad Leader Davis. Testing of hybrid weapons is complete." Tom quickly activated the response system. "Davis, this is Tom. Report your results." "Sir, these weapons are incredible. alien energy rifles we captured could barely penetrate their own soldiers' armor. But your hybrid versions cut through their defenses like paper. We eliminated an entire alien patrol squad without taking a single casualty. Cheers erupted throughout the hangar as the engineering teams heard the news. Months of desperate work had finally produced results that could turn the tide of the war. Davis, Tom continued, what was the alien reaction to the improved weapons? They seemed genuinely shocked that we could harm them so effectively. One of the surviving aliens kept repeating something in their language that our translator thinks means impossible or this cannot be. Dr. Wells took the microphone. Davis, did the aliens try to adapt their tactics to counter the new weapons? No, Doctor. They kept using the same attack patterns they had used since the beginning of the war. Even when it became clear that their tactics were not working, they did not change their approach. Tom and Dr. Wells exchanged significant looks. This behavior confirmed what they had suspected about the alien military mindset. Davis, return to base for debriefing, Tom ordered. An excellent work. After ending the communication, Tom turned to Dr. Wells. They are not adapting. Even when their tactics fail completely, they continue using the same strategies. Exactly. Dr. Wells agreed. While we have been learning and improving with every encounter, they have been repeating the same mistakes. It is as if they cannot conceive of changing their methods. Lieutenant Miller consulted his tablet. Sir, we also have an update from Captain Blake's space operations. She is requesting permission to begin Phase 2 of the offensive plan. Does Phase 2 involve? Tom asked. Sir, Captain Blake wants to use the captured alien ships to infiltrate the main enemy fleet. Her teams have learned to speak basic alien languages from the prisoners, and they believe they can disguise human crews as alien reinforcements. Dr. Wells raised her eyebrows. That is an incredibly bold plan. If it works, we could strike at the heart of their fleet before they realize what is happening. Tom considered the implications. And if it fails, then we lose some of our best pilots and several captured ships, Lieutenant Miller admitted. But Captain Blake believes the risk is worth it. The aliens have shown no ability to adapt to our unconventional tactics. At that moment, alarms began sounding throughout the hangar. Red lights flashed as the emergency communication system activated. All personnel, this is General Kane. We have detected a massive alien reinforcement fleet approaching. Earth, the enemy has called for additional ships to deal with our resistance. Tom felt his stomach sink. Just when humanity was gaining the upper hand, the aliens were bringing in more forces. General Kane's voice continued. However, our intelligence suggests that these reinforcements are coming from distant parts of the galaxy. They have not been informed about our capabilities or our unconventional tactics. This gives us a significant advantage. Double quotes. Dr. Wells grabbed Tom's arm excitedly. Tom, do you understand what this means? That we are about to face even more alien ships? Tom replied grimly. No, Dr. Wells said with growing excitement. It means the incoming aliens expect to find a defeated human population and a victorious occupation force. Instead, they will find human crews operating alien ships, using improved alien weapons and employing tactics their military has never encountered. Lieutenant Miller checked his tablet for new updates. Sir, Captain Blake is requesting immediate approval for her infiltration mission. She wants to position the captured alien ships within the enemy fleet before the reinforcements arrive. Tom looked around the hangar at the teams of engineers and scientists who had worked tirelessly to give humanity a fighting chance. These people had taken alien technology and made it better in just 3 days. They had turned humanity's greatest weakness, their primitive technology, into their greatest strength through pure innovation and determination. Miller, tell Captain Blake she has full approval for Phase 2, Tom decided. And tell her that if she can pull this off, we will. Have alien prisoners teaching us their technology instead of the other way around? Sir, there is one more thing, Lieutenant Miller added. The alien prisoners we captured have been requesting to speak with our leaders. They say they have important information about the reinforcement fleet. What kind of information? Dr. Wells asked. According to our interpreters, the prisoners claim that the reinforcement fleet commander is someone called Admiral Corks. apparently. He is known throughout the galaxy for never accepting defeat. The prisoners seem to think this is bad news for us. Tom laughed, surprising both Dr. Wells and Lieutenant Miller. They still do not understand, do they? They think sending their most stubborn and flexible commander is going to help them? Is that good for us? Lieutenant Miller asked, confused. Dr. Wells answered for Tom, because a commander who never accepts defeat is also a commander who never changes tactics. He will keep using the same strategies that have already failed. But with more ships, exactly, Tom agreed. And while Admiral Corks is repeating the same mistakes on a larger scale, we will be improving our weapons, capturing more of his ships, and learning everything we can about his fleet. Tom walked back to the workbench where the hybrid weapons lay waiting for mass production. Around him, the engineering teams continued their work with renewed energy. The aliens had made a critical error. They thought that sending more ships would solve their problem. Instead, they were about to discover that humanity's greatest strength was not their ability to build better weapons, but their ability to learn faster than their enemies could adapt. The tables had turned, and the aliens were about to face an enemy unlike anything in Thieves' CR. Part 5. The price of ignorance. Admiral Corks stood on the command bridge of his massive dreadnought, the Galaxy Crusher. As his reinforcement fleet approached Earth, behind him stretched the largest military force the Krill Federation had ever assembled. Over 800 warships, including 12 dreadnoughts and countless support vessels. This was the fleet that had conquered entire star systems and brought dozens of species to their knees. Admiral reported his tactical officer, Commander Nix. We are receiving communications from Admiral Rex's original fleet. The signals are weak and fragmented. Corks frowned. Admiral Rex should have completed the conquest of Earth days ago. The fact that his fleet was still in the system was troubling. But Corks assumed it was simply taking longer than expected to organize the occupation. What? Is Rex reporting? Corks asked. Commander Nix worked at his console for several moments before responding. Sir, the transmissions are difficult to understand. There appears to be significant interference affecting their communications. Admiral Rex mentioned something about unexpected human resistance and requests immediate reinforcement. Resistance? Corks laughed, his voice echoing across the bridge. From primitives who barely understand space travel, Rex has grown soft. When we arrive, I will show him how proper conquest is conducted. The bridge crew murmured agreement. Admiral Corks was famous throughout the galaxy for his ruthless efficiency. No species had ever successfully resisted his fleets, and those few who tried were completely destroyed as examples to others. Sir, called the sensor operator, we are now close enough to detect the human homeworld directly. Sensors show unusual readings. Corks walked to the sensor station. Define unusual. Admiral, there appear to be multiple ship movements throughout the system, but the energy signatures are confusing. Some ships appear to be krill vessels, but they are moving in patterns that do not match our standard formations. Show me, Corks ordered. The main display activated, showing a tactical representation of the Earth system. Dots of light representing various ships moved across the screen, but their movements did indeed appear chaotic and unpredictable. Perhaps Admiral Rex is conducting training exercises with captured human vessels, suggested Commander Nix. Commanders like to demonstrate superiority by using enemy ships as target practice. Corks nodded approvingly. That would be acceptable. Continue monitoring and prepare for fleet coordination with Rex's forces. As the reinforcement fleet drew closer to Earth, the communications interference grew stronger. What had been weak but understandable transmissions became completely random noise, mixed with strange sounds that hurt the ears of everyone who heard them. Commander Nix Corks said, "What is causing this interference?" Unknown, sir. The interference appears to be deliberate rather than natural. Someone is broadcasting chaotic signals on all frequencies simultaneously. The humans are trying to disrupt our communications, Corks asked with amusement. How pathetic, as if primitive radio noise could affect our advanced systems. Before Commander Nix could respond, alarms began sounding throughout the bridge. The tactical display showed dozens of new contacts approaching the reinforcement fleet at high speed. Report, Corks barked. Sir, multiple vessels are approaching our position. The ships appear to be Krill design, but they are not responding to our identification requests. Quark studied the tactical display. The approaching ships were indeed Krill vessels, but they were moving in attack formation toward his fleet. This must be some kind of training exercise. Rex is testing our response. Time. Admiral, the communications officer interrupted. We are receiving a transmission from the lead approaching vessel. It is broadcasting on a Krill command frequency. Put it through, Quark's ordered. Let us hear what Rex has to say about this exercise. The main speakers crackled to life, and a voice began speaking in perfect Krill military language. Reinforcement. Fleet, this is Strike Commander. Zek, Admiral. Rex sends his greetings and requests that you prepare for coordination maneuvers. Quarks frowned. Something about the voice sounded wrong, though he could not identify exactly what bothered him. Strike Commander Zek, Quarks responded. I do not recognize your designation. What is your ship registry? There was a pause before the voice replied. Ship registry is temporarily unavailable due to communication interference. Admiral Rex requests immediate close formation for tactical briefing. Sir, whispered Commander Nix, I have checked our personnel databases. There is no strike commander named Zek in Admiral Rex's fleet. Quark's eyes narrowed. Then who is commanding that vessel? His question was answered when the approaching Krill ships suddenly opened fire on the reinforcement fleet. But these were not normal Krill weapons. The energy beams that struck his ships were far more powerful than anything in the Krill arsenal, cutting through shields and armor that should have been impenetrable. Impossible, Quark shouted. Those are our own ships firing weapons more advanced than ours. Chaos erupted across the bridge as damage reports poured in from throughout the fleet. Ships that had never been seriously damaged in centuries of conquest were being torn apart by weapons that appeared to be improved versions of their own technology. All ships, return fire, Quarks commanded. Destroy those vessels immediately. But as the reinforcement fleet began to respond, more surprises awaited them. The attacking ships, despite appearing to be standard Krill vessels, moved with agility and cunning that no Krill pilot had ever displayed. They used hit-and-run tactics, coordinated attacks from multiple angles. And most disturbing of all, they seemed to predict every move the reinforcement fleet made. Admiral, reported the tactical officer, the enemy ships are anticipating our maneuvers. Every time we change formation, they adjust their attacks to counter our movements. Quarks watched in growing horror as his mighty fleet was systematically picked apart by what appeared to be his own ships. How is this possible? Those are Krill vessels using Krill weapons. Sir, called the communications officer, we are receiving another transmission from the attacking ships. This time the speaker is not attempting to disguise their voice. Put it through, Quarks ordered grimly. A new voice filled the bridge, speaking clear Krill language, but with an accent that was definitely not Krill. Admiral Quarks, this is Captain Morgan of the Human Defense Force. I believe we need to have a conversation. Stunned silence fell over the bridge. Human was speaking perfect Krill while commanding Krill ships and using weapons superior to anything the Krill had ever built. This is impossible, Quarks muttered. Humans are primitives. They cannot understand our technology, much less improve upon it. Captain Morgan's voice continued. Admiral, your fleet is currently being destroyed by human crews using captured Krill. Vessels equipped with hybrid human-alien weapons. We have spent the past week learning your language, your tactics, and your technology. We have taken everything you thought made you superior and made it better. Quarks looked at his tactical display. Nearly a quarter of his reinforcement fleet had been destroyed or disabled, and the attacking human ships showed no signs of slowing their assault. What do you want, human? Quarks asked, his voice full of rage and disbelief. I want to offer you the same choice we gave Admiral Rex, Captain Morgan replied. You can withdraw your fleet immediately and spread the word throughout the galaxy that Earth is off limits to alien conquest. Or you can continue fighting and discover what happens when humans decide to take this war to your homeworlds. Dare threaten the Krill Federation? Quarks roared. We have conquered 100 worlds. We have destroyed entire species. And we have turned your own ships against you using technology you thought was impossible for us to understand. Captain Morgan responded calmly. Admiral, you made the same mistake everyone else made. You assumed that advanced technology automatically makes you superior. You never considered what would happen if someone could take your technology and improve it. Quarks watched his tactical display as more of his ships fell to the human attack. The impossible was happening before his eyes. Primitive humans were defeating the most advanced military force in the galaxy, using the galaxy's own weapons against them. How? Quarks asked, his voice barely a whisper. Because we never stopped learning, Captain Morgan replied. Every ship you sent against us taught us something new. Every weapon you used became a puzzle for us to solve. Every tactic you employed became a strategy for us to counter. You fought the same war for thousands of years. We evolved our war every single day. Commander Nix approached Quarks with a damage report. Admiral, we have lost 40% of the fleet. The remaining ships are requesting orders. Quarks stared at the tactical display, watching his supposedly invincible fleet being methodically destroyed by an enemy that should not have been able to harm them at all. For the first time in his long military career, Admiral Quarks faced a choice he had never had to make. Captain Morgan, Quarks said slowly, if I withdraw my fleet, what guarantee do I have that you will not pursue us? You have my word that we will not follow you beyond this system, Captain Morgan replied. But Admiral, understand this clearly. If any alien force ever threatens Earth again, we will not simply defend ourselves. We will bring this war to every world in the galaxy until no species dares to think of humans as EA.